Before the era of specialized supplements, enhancement protocols, and modern bodybuilding science took over Hollywood, there existed a generation of actors who built genuinely massive physiques the hard way. These men didn't have access to today's fitness technology or pharmaceutical advantages. What they had was iron, discipline, and time. They were old Hollywood muscle legends who constructed tank-like bodies through manual labor, Olympic athletics, circus training, military conditioning, barbell basics, and relentless consistency. Their size came from squatting heavy weight in basement gyms, hauling farm equipment, swimming miles in open water, throwing sandbags, climbing ropes until their hands bled, and eating simple protein-rich meals without calorie-tracking apps. The 17 men on this list represent the final wave of natural bodybuilders and vintage strength icons who dominated the screen before the bodybuilding boom of the 1980s changed physique culture forever. These weren't actors who got in shape for a single role and then deflated. They maintained genuine, thick, powerful muscle year-round because their training methods were embedded in their daily lives. From the golden age muscle stars of sword and sandal epics to the 1950s fitness legends who defined what natural mass looked like on camera, these classic cinema physiques came from a different world. They were built in an era when gyms smelled like rust and sweat, when training meant endless sets of compound movements, and when recovery meant eating steak and sleeping 10 hours, not sipping amino acids and monitoring hormone panels. What made these classic muscular actors true natural mass monsters wasn't just their size. It was their density, their thickness, their functional strength. These were pre-steroid bodybuilding icons whose muscles had been forged through real work, real lifting, and real athletic performance. When you see footage of these old Hollywood workout secrets in action, you're witnessing bodies that took years to construct, not months. This is the story of 17 men who became the last giants of Hollywood's natural era. Reg Park, the natural powerhouse who trained like a bulldozer. Reg Park wasn't just a bodybuilder who acted. He was a 3-time Mr. Universe champion who built his physique on a foundation of brutal strength training that would make modern powerlifters nod in respect. Park's entire philosophy revolved around one principle: lift the heaviest weight possible for 5 sets of 5 reps on the biggest compound movements. Squats, deadlifts, bench presses, overhead presses, barbell rows. That was it. No fancy isolation work, no pre-exhaust techniques, no complex periodization. Just raw, progressive overload that pushed his body to adapt by building slabs of dense muscle tissue. Park could squat around 600 pounds and bench press close to 500 at a time when most bodybuilders were chasing the pump with lighter weights and higher reps. His legs looked like they belonged on a draft horse. His chest was so thick it created its own shadow in lighting setups during his Hercules films. The muscle bellies on his thighs and pectorals were unnaturally full, the kind of development that only comes from years of handling genuinely heavy iron. He didn't believe in training to failure or grinding out junk reps. Every set was controlled, powerful, and built around adding weight to bar over time. What separated Park from other natural bodybuilders was his understanding that size follows strength. He didn't chase the mirror. He chased numbers on the platform, and his body responded by becoming one of the most impressively built physiques of the 1950s and 1960s. His back was ridiculously thick. His arms hung heavy with muscle. His overall mass made him look more like a strongman competitor than a Hollywood actor. Steve Reeves, the symmetrical titan built through slow-tempo tension. Steve Reeves won Mr. Universe in 1950 and became the blueprint for what a naturally built male physique could achieve. But his training approach was radically different from Reg Park's strength-obsessed system. Reeves trained with what modern science now calls time under tension methodology, decades before anyone gave it that name. He performed every rep slowly, deliberately, squeezing the muscle at peak contraction and controlling the negative. He never jerked weight, never bounced it off his chest, never used momentum. Every single repetition was a masterclass in muscle control. His routines were full body sessions performed 3 days per week, using 8 to 12 exercises total. He'd hit chest, back, shoulders, arms, and legs in one workout, keeping rest periods short and intensity high. The goal wasn't to see how much weight he could lift, but how effectively he could stimulate muscle growth through perfect form and constant tension. Reeves stayed lean year-round by eating clean whole foods and doing outdoor conditioning work like swimming and hiking. He didn't bulk and cut. He maintained his physique constantly. What made Reeves genuinely special was his genetic balance. His arms measured around 18 inches, which was massive for a natural athlete, but so did his calves. That kind of lower leg development is extraordinarily rare even among enhanced bodybuilders. His waist stayed tight, his shoulders were wide, and his muscle insertions created the kind of aesthetic flow that artists use as reference material. Reeves looked like a marble statue come to life. It was all built through controlled, patient, tension-based training that prioritized quality over ego. Clint Walker, the 6'6" human mountain built by hard labor. Clint Walker didn't need a gym to look like a tank. Standing 6'6" with a naturally enormous skeletal frame, Walker built a physique doing farm work, chopping wood, hauling heavy equipment, and swimming in rivers. He grew up in an era when physical labor wasn't a workout plan. It was survival. By the time he arrived in Hollywood, his chest and shoulders were already massive from years of functional strength development. Walker rarely trained like a bodybuilder because he didn't need to. His body had been conditioned by real-world demands that required genuine power and endurance. When he did train, Walker preferred outdoor activities over gyms. He'd swim for conditioning, chop for shoulder and back development, and perform basic calisthenics to maintain his muscle. He wasn't interested in isolation exercises or physique refinement. His approach was simple. Stay active, stay strong, and let genetics handle the rest. And his genetics were exceptional. Walker's torso in the television series Cheyenne looked more like a professional strongman than a Hollywood actor. His chest was barrel thick. His traps rose up like mountain ranges, and his arms hung with natural mass that most bodybuilders would need years of dedicated training to achieve. What's remarkable about Walker is that he maintained this size without obsessing over training volume or nutritional precision. He ate normal food, stayed physically active through outdoor work, and trusted his body to adapt. His physique proves that some men are genetically designed to carry significant muscle mass with minimal stimulus, especially when that stimulus comes from years of heavy manual labor during developmental years. Peter Lupus, the Mission, impossible bodybuilder with competition mass. Before Peter Lupus became famous as a strongman on mission, impossible, he was a legitimate competitive natural bodybuilder who appeared in physique magazines throughout the early 1960s. Lupus didn't stumble into muscle. He built it deliberately using high-volume bodybuilding routines focused on chest, back, and arms. His training centered around heavy incline presses, barbell rows, weighted dips, and endless sets of curls designed to maximize hypertrophy. He understood progressive overload, muscle damage, and the importance of training each body part with sufficient volume to trigger growth. Lupus had naturally huge chest muscles and trapezius development that gave him bodybuilding-grade proportions. His arms were thick and full, his shoulders were capped with muscle, and his back showed the kind of width and thickness that only comes from years of rowing heavy weight. What's interesting is that the producers of Mission, Impossible rarely showcases physique. They cast him as a team's muscle, but kept him fully clothed in most episodes, missing opportunities to highlight just how impressively built he actually was. In competition photos from his bodybuilding days, Lupus looks like he belongs on stage with any natural competitor from that era. His conditioning was sharp, his muscle bellies were full, and his overall development showed that he understood how to structure training for maximum size. He wasn't just a big guy who lifted weights casually. He was a dedicated bodybuilder who happened to transition into acting, bringing legitimate muscle mass into a television landscape that rarely featured genuinely muscular physiques. Gordon Scott, Tarzan with real bodybuilder proportions. Gordon Scott played Tarzan during the height of the character's popularity, and he brought something different to the role: actual bodybuilder proportions. Unlike previous Tarzans who were simply athletic or naturally lean, Scott had thick muscle development that came from dedicated barbell training, combined with the functional demands of rope climbing, vine swinging, and gymnastic drills required for the role. His shoulders were walnut-shaped with clear deltoid separation. His arms were genuinely big, and he maintained a tight waist that created impressive V-taper proportions. Scott trained with heavy compound movements between film shoots, understanding that maintaining his physique require consistent progressive overload. He performed Olympic-style lifts, heavy pressing movements, and enough back work to develop the kind of lat width that made him look powerful on camera. The physical demands of playing Tarzan also contributed significantly to his development. Climbing ropes and swinging from vines created constant pulling stimulus that built his back and biceps naturally through high-volume functional work. What makes Scott underappreciated in bodybuilding history is that his films weren't marketed toward physique enthusiasts. He was positioned as an action star, not a muscle icon, so his genuinely impressive development flew under the radar. But when you analyze his physique in his Tarzan films, especially during shirtless jungle scenes, you see clear bodybuilding quality muscle. His chest was thick, his abs were visible year-round, and his overall proportions showed that he understood how to build and maintain mass naturally. Mike Henry, NFL linebacker muscle, reforged for Hollywood. Mike Henry came to Hollywood with a foundation that most actors could never replicate. Years of professional football training as an NFL linebacker. His body had been built through explosive athletic conditioning that prioritized power, speed, and durability. Clean sled pushes, sprint work, heavy squats, and dedicated neck training had created a physique that looked more like a professional athlete than a bodybuilder, because that's exactly what it was. Henry had massive trapezius muscles, thick shoulders, and upper back that showed the kind of development you only get from moving heavy weight explosively. When Henry transitioned into playing Tarzan, he didn't need to transform his body. He was already carrying significant muscle mass from his football career. What he brought to the screen was genuine functional strength. His muscle wasn't built in a gym for aesthetic purposes. It was forged on football fields through brutal conditioning that demanded real-world power. His neck was thick from years of collision training. His legs were powerful from explosive sprints, and his upper body showed the kind of density that comes from Olympic lift variations performed with serious weight. Henry was rarely promoted as a physique icon because he didn't come from the bodybuilding world. Hollywood didn't know how to market him as both a legitimate athlete and a muscle star, so they positioned him primarily as an action performer. But anyone who understands athletic development can see that Henry's physique represented the kind of natural mass that comes from years of high-intensity training designed to build explosiveness and power, not just visual size. Woody Strode, Olympic-level athlete with gladiator muscle. Woody Strode was an elite multi-sport athlete who competed in football, track and field, and discus throwing at the highest levels before becoming an actor. His physique was sculpted through years of athletic training that built functional muscle design for performance. Strode had a sweeping lat structure, a sculpted chest with clear muscle definition, and long, powerful arms that showed the kind of development you see in track athletes who perform explosive throwing movements. His training consisted primarily of calisthenics, sprint work, and athletic drills rather than traditional bodybuilding routines. What made Strode's physique remarkable was its aesthetic quality. He looked like a living statue, with muscle that flowed naturally across his frame, rather than bulging awkwardly. The opening duel sequence in Spartacus showcased his development perfectly, highlighting his powerful build against dramatic lighting. Strode understood that athletic training builds muscle differently than bodybuilding, creating a more functional, explosive type of mass that prioritizes movement quality over pure size. Unfortunately, Strode was often overlooked in discussions about muscular Hollywood stars because the industry during his era didn't effectively market muscular black actors. Despite having one of the most impressive natural physiques in classic cinema, he rarely received recognition as a muscle icon. His development proved that athletic training, particularly throwing sports and sprint work, can build genuinely impressive muscle mass when combined with good genetics and consistent training over many years. Alan Steele Sergio Ciani, Italy's natural Hercules. Sergio Ciani, known professionally as Alan Steele, was an Italian bodybuilder who brought genuine competitive-level muscle to the European sword and sandal film industry. His training approach centered on marathon superset sessions that kept his muscles under constant tension for extended periods. He performed non-stop upper body pumping work, combining chest exercises with shoulder movements and arm work without rest, pushing blood into muscle and creating the kind of fullness that photographs dramatically on camera. Steele's chest and shoulder mass approached Reg Park's level of development, which is extraordinary considering Park was one of the most massively built natural bodybuilders of his generation. Steele understood high-volume training before it became a mainstream bodybuilding principle. He performed 20 to 30 sets per body part, using moderate weights in perfect form to stimulate maximum hypertrophy without relying on heavy strength work. His arms were dense and thick, his chest showed impressive fullness, and his overall proportions demonstrated legitimate bodybuilding development. The challenge with Alan Steele's legacy is that he was overshadowed by Steve Reeves' fame in the American market. Reeves became the face of natural bodybuilding in Hollywood, while Steele remained primarily known to European audiences and physique enthusiasts who studied Italian muscle films. But among those who understand natural bodybuilding history, Steele is recognized as one of the most impressively built actors of the sword and sandal era, with muscle that rivaled any natural competitor of his time. Brad Harris, the gymnastic powerhouse with dense, compact muscle. Brad Harris built his physique through a hybrid training approach that combined gymnastics, weighted calisthenics, and traditional bodybuilding. He trained extensively with rings, performing handstand variations, weighted dips, muscle-ups, and high-volume curling work to develop arms and shoulders. His muscle had a uniquely dense, compact quality that comes from gymnastic strength training combined with hypertrophy-focused lifting. Harris looked like a power lifter compressed into a gymnast's frame, with thickness and definition that stood out dramatically on camera. Harris was also a professional stuntman and martial artist, which meant his training had to support functional movement and durability, not just visual development. He couldn't afford to build muscle that looked good but didn't perform. His workouts emphasized strength-to-weight ratio, explosive power, and movement quality alongside size development. This created a physique that was genuinely powerful rather than just aesthetically impressive. Most of Harris's film work appeared in German and Italian action movies, which meant American audiences rarely saw his development. He remained relatively unknown outside of European cinema and stunt work circles, despite having one of the most impressively built natural physiques of his era. Harris proved that combining gymnastic strength training with bodybuilding volume creates a unique type of muscle density that's difficult to achieve through traditional weightlifting alone. Charles Bronson, the miner who built granite-like functional strength. Charles Bronson's muscle didn't come from a gym. It came from years of coal mining, where he developed the kind of functional strength that only manual labor can build. Hauling equipment, swinging pickaxes, and performing repetitive heavy work created dense muscle tissue throughout his chest, shoulders, and forearms. By the time Bronson transitioned into acting, his body had been conditioned by real-world demands that required genuine power and endurance over extended periods. Bronson continued training throughout his acting career, using sandbag drills, manual resistance exercises, and bodyweight movements. He preferred functional training over traditional bodybuilding, focusing on exercises that maintained his working man strength rather than building show muscle. His forearm development was particularly impressive, showing the kind of thickness that comes from years of grip-intensive work. His chest remained lean, but incredibly dense, with muscle that looked hard as granite even in his later roles. In The Mechanic, Bronson's physique showed this unique quality clearly. He wasn't bulky or oversized, but every muscle looked functional and dense. His development proved that manual labor, when performed consistently over many years during developmental periods, builds a type of muscle that's difficult to replicate through gym training alone. Bronson's body was a working man's physique, built through necessity rather than vanity. It remained impressive throughout his entire career. Robert Conrad, the compact human tank of 1960s television. Robert Conrad built a physique through gymnastics-based strength training that emphasized bodyweight mastery and explosive power. Handstand push-ups, rope climbing, high-repetition dips, weighted pull-ups, and sprint drills created surprisingly large shoulder and arm development despite his smaller height. Conrad performed most of his own stunts, which require maintaining genuine functional strength rather than just aesthetic muscle. His training had to support real movement demands, not just camera appearance. What made Conrad impressive was his shoulder and arm development relative to his frame. His deltoids were capped with muscle that showed clear definition and size. His arms were legitimately thick, and his overall proportions created a powerful appearance despite not being particularly tall. He understood that bodyweight training, when performed with sufficient volume and progressive overload through added resistance, can build genuine muscle mass. Conrad's approach to fitness emphasized quality over quantity. He didn't perform endless junk sets or waste time with ineffective exercises. Every movement in his training had a purpose, whether building strength, power, or endurance. His physique proved that gymnastic-style training, combined with dedicated stunt work, creates functional muscle that looks impressive while supporting real athletic performance. George Lazenby, the martial artist Bond with surprising mass. George Lazenby played James Bond only once, but he brought something unique to the role, a genuine martial arts background combined with unexpected muscle mass. Lazenby trained in karate and judo, performing full-contact sparring that built his shoulders and chest through repetitive combat drilling. Martial arts conditioning creates a specific type of muscle development through explosive movements, isometric holds during grappling, and constant tension during striking practice. Behind-the-scenes training footage from his Bond film shows Lazenby carry more muscle than most people remember. His shoulders were thick from years of punching and striking drills. His chest showed development from grappling and groundwork, and his overall physique had the kind of functional density that comes from combat training rather than bodybuilding. He wasn't trying to build show muscle. He was training to be effective in martial arts, and the muscle came as a natural byproduct. What's interesting about Lazenby is that his physique was rarely highlighted in promotional materials. The Bond franchise focused on his ability to perform fight scenes rather than his muscular development. But for those who study martial arts conditioning, Lazenby's body showed clear evidence of years of dedicated training that built functional mass through combat drills and hypertrophy-inducing repetitive movement patterns. Buster Crabbe, Olympic swimmer with shockingly thick shoulders. Buster Crabbe was an Olympic gold medalist swimmer who brought elite athletic conditioning into Hollywood. Swimming builds muscle differently than weightlifting, creating broad shoulders, enormous lats, and a natural V-taper through thousands of repetitive pulling movements. Crabbe's training consisted of mile-long swimming sessions that required his upper body to generate power continuously for extended durations. This high-volume pulling work built his shoulders and back into impressively thick structures that showed clearly even in his early Flash Gordon films. What made Crabbe's physique unique was its swimmer-specific development. His lats were wide and sweeping. His shoulders were rounded with muscle from constant overhead pulling, and his chest showed the kind of expansion that comes from years of deep breathing under cardiovascular stress. He maintained this development throughout his acting career by continuing to swim regularly, understanding that detraining would cost him physique that made him marketable. Crabbe's body proved that swimming, when performed at elite levels with proper technique and sufficient volume, builds genuinely impressive muscle mass. His torso development rivaled many bodybuilders of his era despite never lifting weights seriously. The combination of Olympic-level swimming technique and years of consistent training created a naturally muscular physique that translated effectively to his roles as Tarzan and Flash Gordon. Johnny Weissmuller, Tarzan with wide-lat natural swimmer muscle. Johnny Weissmuller won 5 Olympic gold medals in swimming before becoming Hollywood's most famous Tarzan. His physique was built through elite swimming training that created naturally wide chest development, thick back muscles, and powerful shoulders. Weissmuller swam miles daily well into his adult life, maintaining the kind of cardiovascular conditioning that kept his pulmonary ribcage expanded and his upper body muscular even as he aged. Weissmuller's lat development was particularly impressive, showing the kind of width that bodybuilders chase through endless rowing variations. His came naturally from years of high-volume swimming that required constant lat engagement for propulsion. His chest was broad and thick, his shoulders showed clear deltoid development, and his overall structure demonstrated pre-bodybuilding muscular development that came purely from athletic training. What's remarkable about Weissmuller is that his Tarzan films showcased a genuinely muscular physique during an era when most actors were simply lean or athletic. He brought real muscle mass to the screen, proving that Olympic-level swimming builds impressive upper body development. His physique remained a reference point for what natural athletic training could achieve long before bodybuilding became mainstream. Joe Robinson, the British strongman who looked like a tank in a toga. Joe Robinson was a British wrestler and strength performer who brought legitimate strongman development into sword and sandal films. His training combined wrestling conditioning with old European strongman lifts and basic barbell work. Robinson had thick, powerful legs from years of wrestling and grappling, and his upper body showed the kind of brawler muscle that comes from functional strength training rather than aesthetic bodybuilding. Robinson performed barbell basics: squats, deadlifts, overhead presses, rows. But he also incorporated strongman-style training like carrying heavy objects, flipping tires before it became trendy, and performing manual labor as part of his conditioning. His physique looked thick and powerful rather than refined or polished. He had the appearance of someone who could actually perform the feats of strength his films depicted, which separated him from actors who simply pose as strongmen. In Thor and the Amazon Women, Robinson's tank-like mass is obvious. His shoulders are broad and thick, his chest shows genuine development, and his legs look like they belong on a power lifter. His physique proved that combining wrestling with old-school strength training creates a uniquely powerful type of muscle that emphasizes function and density over pure aesthetics. Jack Palance, the boxer with hardened, dense, old-school muscle. Jack Palance was an amateur boxer who built his physique through brutal fight conditioning that prioritized cardiovascular capacity, shoulder endurance, and functional power. Heavy bag work, road work, long push-up sets, and constant movement drills created dense muscle throughout his upper body. Palance's muscle wasn't sculpted or refined. It was the kind of hard, functional development that comes from combat training rather than bodybuilding. Young Palance, particularly in his early film roles, showed shockingly impressive muscle development. His shoulders were thick from endless punching drills. His chest showed clear development from years of push-up variations and bag work. And his overall physique had the kind of hardened quality that only comes from real fight conditioning. Boxing builds muscle differently than weightlifting, creating explosive power and endurance-based hypertrophy through high-volume repetitive movements under cardiovascular stress. What's interesting is that Palance's later roles rarely showcase his muscular development. By the time he became famous for character work, his physique wasn't highlighted, but early photos and films show that he carried genuinely impressive muscle mass built through boxing training that emphasized function over appearance. His development proved that fight conditioning, when performed consistently at high intensity, builds real muscle that supports athletic performance. Dan Vadas, the Hercules star with Street Fighter bulk. Dan Vadas was part of the 1960s muscle man wave that dominated sword and sandal films, but his physique had a grittier quality than polished bodybuilding development. Vadas trained with basic heavy barbell routines, combined with stunt conditioning that kept his muscle functional rather than just visual. His chest was thick, his arms were full, and his naturally broad build gave him the kind of presence that worked perfectly for Hercules-style roles. What separated Vadas from more aesthetic bodybuilders was his street fighter appearance. His muscle looked tough and practical rather than refined. He had the kind of development you'd expect from someone who lifted heavy weights without obsessing over symmetry or proportions. His training emphasized getting stronger and bigger through basic compound movements: bench presses, squats, overhead presses, rows. Nothing fancy, just consistent progressive overload. Among sword and sandal fans, Vadas is remembered for having a gritty, athletic look rather than polished bodybuilding aesthetics. His physique proved that you don't need perfect symmetry or refined conditioning to look powerfully built on camera. Sometimes raw mass and functional thickness create a more imposing presence than perfectly sculpted muscle, and Vadas embodied that perfectly throughout his career in Italian action films. These 17 men represent the final generation of naturally built Hollywood muscle before modern enhancement culture took over the fitness industry. Their physiques were forged through manual labor, Olympic athletics, heavy barbell work, and years of relentless consistency, proving that genuine mass can be built without shortcuts. If you enjoyed learning about these forgotten old Hollywood natural muscle legends, smash that like button, drop a comment telling me which physique impressed you most, and subscribe for more deep dives into Golden Age fitness secrets.